Hello, and welcome to Technically Baltimore's Look Ahead. I'm Donte Kirby, reporter with Technically, and in this series, we're exploring the theme of the new normal and discussing the lessons we've learned from 2020. And today, my guest is Gary Bonner, executive director of the Maryland branch of PCs for People. And again, thank you for joining me, Gary.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Donte.
And for those who don't know, can you explain a bit what PCs for People does and how it works?
Sure. PCs for People is a nonprofit social enterprise, and we exist to enable people who are low income to have access to affordable computers and tablets and technology and internet, so that they can use those devices to help themselves become economically mobile and to compete educationally. And the way we do that is we accept donations from the community of retired technology and from businesses like Whiting Turner and Johns Hopkins, who donate their end of cycle computers to us. And then we have a 10,000 square foot remanufacturing facility at 2901 East Biddle Street in Baltimore, where we hire people from the community. We teach them how to refurbish those computers under tight quality control requirements, and then we redistribute those computers back into our communities.
And I guess, can you talk a bit about how that transition has been to coming to East Baltimore for PCs for People? Because I know the organization got to the city in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. So I guess
yes. Our original plan was to launch in January of 2020. Then we were delayed looking for space, and then we were just about to start in late February of 2020, and then this little thing called COVID came along, and folks started getting sick, and nobody understood truly what it was, and then we delayed through March, and then we delayed through April, May. Finally, in June, we decided, hey, we're going to go ahead and move forward, because we were getting calls from mainly folks who had kids who were getting ready to go back to school virtually, and they had no computers and they had no internet, and everybody was scrambling trying to figure out how we were going to make that happen. So we decided to go ahead and pull the trigger, and we opened our doors on July 1st. We were fortunate enough to get Whiting Turner to donate our first 660 laptops. I had a staff of, I was an army of one. I quickly hired a staff of 2 people, and we got to work. We had an empty warehouse, and we got an investment from the Robert W. Deutsch Foundation, who helped us buy our first equipment, and we started refurbishing computers and getting them in the hands of city school students, and struck up a relationship with T-Mobile Sprint to provide low-cost mobile internet, and that's we built computers by day and distributed them by night, and that's how we did it. And so here we are now, about a year later, and we have 21 employees, and
21.
Yep. 21 employees and a group of interns who are in now from Baltimore City Community College's computer tech program, who are in our building today helping us, and a slew of volunteers, and a handful of companies and government agencies who have begun to donate to us, and we are climbing our way up the mountain. So far, we've distributed roughly about a little over 4,000 computers in Baltimore, and a little over 3,000 people connected to the internet.
And I guess, can you explain a bit more about the effects of lacking access to quality laptops and computers for people? Because some would say that like a phone these days is enough, and I guess, why is that not the case?
So let me tell you why a phone is not enough. a lot of folks think that they are on the internet because they're able to hop on a web browser with their phone. The challenge you have with just using a phone is that if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to go to class, your phone is just not going to get it. It doesn't have the capacity to be able to run the type of graphics and the battery doesn't have the longevity to be able to run your processor at the speed that you need to be able to run at in order to get the full effect of what you're trying to do on the web. So to experience the full breadth of a web experience, you're not going to be able to get that on the phone. If you're applying for a job, some job applications are Mobi ready, but most of them are not. Then what do you do when you have to upload data, upload documents on the web, when you've got to upload your driver's license and social security number, and you've got to do that securely, and so your phone is not going to get it. Then you've got those data fees that you're going to run into with some applications where your data is not going to be free. And even when they tell you your data is free, most plans, once you reach a certain data load, yeah, it's free, but then it slows down to a crawl, and so your data is moving so slow that you're really, it really is worthless. So having an actual computer, a laptop or a PC, makes it much more functional. Then the other issue is your ability to communicate out. Having that keyboard, the mouse, the ability to create your own documents, to draw your own pictures, to store documents. You don't have that real capability to any significant degree on a phone. So you still need to have a computer or a robust tablet or a laptop to do that. And not throwing any shade on my phone people, but because my sons live their lives on their phone. Me, I live my life on my phone. But when I've got to do school and business, I got to have a computer.
And I guess the key word of 2020 has been digital equity and like how it's come to the forefront. I guess what's one way you don't want the digital equity conversation to backslide and I know sort of the projection is that we might even go into another lockdown, or things aren't looking as up as we like, but it's still not the same as it was at the beginning of 2020. People are moving more towards, we're figuring this out and you want to get back to normal. I guess what's one way as, we get into that stage where like people believe that, you can go to class in person, you can go to school in person, you can do these business meetings in person. I guess what's one way you don't want digital equity conversation to backslide?
I don't want to go back to normal because normal wasn't good. Normal was unequal and normal was not equitable. The issue around digital equity is not a COVID thing, and solving the digital equity and closing the digital divide, solving the digital equity problem and closing the digital divide is not just about getting people computers and access to the internet. What we're experiencing in the United States and across the world is a need for people to understand how to be competitive in a digital world, how to be competitive economically, how to be creative, how to self-express and self-actualize in a digital world using digital tools that they master and place at their disposal. So, for example, I live in a house where I can program my thermostat so that it knows when I'm in a house and it turns my HVAC off when I'm gone, and it knows when I've come in and turns it back on. Somebody who makes $8 an hour, $10 an hour has a dial thermostat that stays on and runs their HVAC all day long. Why would we want them to pay more for utilities than I do when I make way more than they do? That's unequal. Why wouldn't that person have access to the same kind of technology that I do and have the ability to use that in order to manage themselves into a lifestyle that's more productive to them? Um, if I have an idea, uh, I can sit down on my iPad and I can draw it, or I can write it up, using an application. And then I can use what I've learned to make money off of it. Why wouldn't we empower everybody in our society to be able to leverage that kind of technology to self-actualize and be able to build the life that they want for themselves? That's good for all of us. And so digital equity is more than just making sure everybody's got a computer and a laptop. That's a start. And so when I say I don't want to go back to normal, what I want to go back to or move forward to is a world where young people, where students, where seniors, where families, up and down the economic ladder are enculturated to the digital world and understand how to use digital tools to build the life they want. It's kind of like you're probably half my age, but when I was a kid, when I was in college, you used a typewriter, and you would write your paper by hand, and then you would sit down at the typewriter, and you would type your paper. Then we developed word processors, where I no longer wrote my words by hand. It was intuitive enough where I could think and write. I literally could write my paper in the software because I became enculturated to the software. It was intuitive. So instead of writing it out manuscript, I could just sit down and type it. That's a mental leap that happened because of access to that technology and the use of it in our daily process. So now kids don't sit around and write papers; they sit around and type papers. That's what's got to happen with how we use digital tools, and it's got to happen up and down the economic ladder so that people can become economically mobile. We cannot have a society where entire classes of people, entire groups of people, not just in the United States, but globally, are left out. And it's an easy, solvable problem. And it can be solved by businesses. Don't throw your computers away. 3 to 5 years, most businesses, after 3 to 5 years, retire their tech. Why do they do it? Not because it doesn't work anymore, but because the asset is fully depreciated and there's no tax value to hold it on their books. So they retire it and they buy new technology so that they can get the tax value of depreciating those assets again. And they usually will hire a company to come and take those assets away and wipe all the data from them. Well, what we do is we say, hey, we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it for free. We won't charge you a dime, but we want you to transfer ownership of those assets to us. We're going to refurbish them, and we're going to teach people who live in economically underserved areas how to refurbish them, and we're going to distribute them to people who can use them to at least get a toe in the water of the digital world. And that's good for those businesses. It's good for our economy, and it's good for everybody. So if we do that on a large enough scale, we begin to bring in, there are 90,000 households in Baltimore that don't have computers or access to the internet in a city of 600,000 people. That's crazy. And it's completely solvable. And so, all we have to do is don't throw your computer away. Give it away. Drop it off at ours or an organization like ours, and allow it to be repurposed, refurbished, and your data will always be secure. It's always wiped. We are a data secure, NAID certified facility. And so, when we look at going back to normal, I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go forward to what's possible. So even as COVID abates, what we're going to find is that a lot of things that used to be done in person are not going to be done in person anymore. We're not going to be flying salespeople all around the country to meet with customers anymore. We're going to be using digital tools to develop real relationships, not just have meetings, but to develop real relationships of trust with customers, real relationships with trust with clients. We're going to worship online in larger numbers. We're going to do mental health and telehealth online because we are mastering digital tools that enable our ability to do that. We have burgeoning digital tools that allow us to do. Surgeons can even conduct surgery online using digital tools. So this is good. This is the future. This is just not an aberration that came up as a result of COVID. And there is no reason that everybody can't participate. Everybody can participate.
And I guess to talk a bit more about 2020 and 2021, I guess can you tell us a bit about the lessons that the year have taught you? Like what has 2020 and the beginning half of 2021 taught you?
A couple things. The first lesson I learned is that you can take people who thought that they had no digital skills and teach them how to take apart a computer and put it back together again, and that it wasn't nearly as difficult to do that as I thought it was going to be. I learned that. I also learned that simply sticking a computer in someone's hand was not necessarily going to solve their problems. They also needed to understand how to use it. Because in the beginning, I'm a techie, so I would assume everybody's a techie, and sometimes people have to realize what's common sense to you is uncommon sense to someone else. So we quickly had to learn, okay, now we have to have tech onboarding materials and training. And it's not really training, I call it device orientation to make it easy for people to understand this is how I use this thing that you just gave me. The other thing I learned is that our government at the local and state and federal level, totally unequipped, just conceptually to deal with the issues related to the digital divide. Not that they didn't want to, they just don't have the, they didn't have the know-how. I think that there is a Herculean attempt underway to get in front of it, but they didn't. I don't think that they knew. The other thing that I learned is that businesses did not understand that that they could help fix this without really costing themselves any money. I don't think that they understood that at all. And I also think that a lot of folks in the community assumed that when things went south and COVID hit and the economy began to shut down, these are people who were so used to always being left behind when anything went wrong, because they were always the people who wound up taking the brunt. Anytime, when the nation got the flu, they always got pneumonia. So I think that they were bracing themselves. And I think that I learned that when they found that there were options for them, there was kind of a sigh of relief, like, wow, and so I learned that. And I also learned that there were a handful of funders like Robert W. Deutsch who would hear crazy ideas like this and say, all right, they may not be crazy, I'll give them some money. try that out. And also too, I learned that there were a lot of people with technical backgrounds a lot of people who with technical backgrounds get a bad rap because people look at them as, oh, they're techies, they don't really dream, they're not creative people. Are you kidding me? They came out of the woodworks, programmers and quality control people and all kinds of people with technical backgrounds, and they were like, yeah, we could do this. So I learned that. I really wasn't expecting that, but the response has been pretty good. That really touched me.
Yeah. And on that
Yep.
note, is there anything you feel we haven't talked about? Anything you feel people should know about PCs for people or digital equity or just like what it means to have
Um,
digital access?
two things, a couple things. One, if you work for a company, find out what your company does with their old computers and make sure that they aren't just selling them to a recycler or throwing them away. Ask questions where you work. Two, if you got some free time and you are a techie and you are interested in helping people understand how to work on computers, refurbish computers, if you have time to volunteer, come on down to 2901 East Biddle Street or call us at 443 396 7247 and volunteer your time. And thirdly, encourage somebody who thinks that they are not tech savvy to realize that all this stuff is created by the human brain, and their human brain is as elastic and powerful as every other human brain, and that there isn't anything that they can't get their brains around. And I don't care how old they are. Period. My mom is 84 years old, and my mom emails, texts, spends half the day on YouTube and all kinds of things that she didn't think that she could do until she got her hands on a tablet, and she's rocking it out. So that's what I would say.
And thank you again, Gary, for taking the time to talk to me. I know as an executive director, you got a very busy schedule. And that's been Technically Baltimore's The Look Ahead. And
All
until
right.
next time, stay connected.